Hi friends, hi scholars, I'm Miss Tatum and welcome to my classroom. Today we're going to be learning about ratios. So let's just jump to it. So we use ratios to make comparisons between two things. Ratios can be expressed in three different ways. Let's see. You can write a ratio, for example, like 3 semicolon 2, 3 to 2, or 3 over 2. For today's lesson, we're going to be using fractions. We're going to be expressing ratios as fractions in most of our problems. So let me give you some examples. So here, if I were to ask you, what are the ratio of blue stars to black stars? You would say to me the ratio would be 2 to 6 because there's 2 blue to 6. Okay, so and this is what is called a part-to-part ratio. I'm asking you for one part the blue and one part the black, and you can always reduce ratios. So 2 to 6, I would reduce 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 6 3 times. Again, if I was struggling with math and I couldn't reduce this, I would say I know that 2 goes into 2 one time, so I would go down here and I would say, how many times does 2 go into 6? 2 times what is 6? And I would look for my multiplication chart, which you should always have in your notebook. Okay, 3 times 2 is 6, so it's 3. That's how I reduce that. So I could also ask you, what's the number of blue stars to all of the stars? So you would just count 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. That's what's called part to whole. And again, you can reduce. 2 goes into 2 one time, 4 times. If I didn't understand how I did my reduction, I need to put 2 into 2 to get it to 1. And how many times does 2 go into 8? I would check my multiplication chart if I didn't understand. That's my answer. Okay, so it's ratios in a nutshell. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on a few problems I have here. And I just want you to be able to express all of these as fractions. So the first one is 2 over 9. Well, 2, sorry, gave you the answer already. 2 semicolon 9. Write that ratio as a fraction. 2 over 9. Pretty simple. Same thing. 5 over 30. How would I write this as a fraction? How would I write this ratio as a fraction? And if you're in class and you have a test, often the teacher is going to expect you to reduce it to lowest terms. So that's going to be 5 over 30. And you can reduce 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 36 times. Again, if I'm struggling with reducing fractions, I can always divide. How many times does 5 go into 30? Reach for my multiplication chart, and then I'd be able to solve that problem. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, this one I'm not going to write down. I wrote it up here. It's a little wordy. There are 8 girls. So let me write my information down. There are 8 girls for every 10 boys. So I know that that's 8 girls for every 10 boys, but that's actually not the answer I asked for. I said I wanted it in fraction form, but I just didn't. It's easier to rewrite it like this. So how would I rewrite that in fraction form? 8 over 10. What did I notice about these numbers? They're even numbers, which if they're even, well, if they're odd, they can be reduced, but just off the top of my head, I know they're even. I know it can be reduced. So what am I going to use to reduce it? 8 can't go into 10. 6 can't go into 10. 4 is not going to go into 10 evenly, so that's going to just take me down to 2. So I know I'm going to use 2 to reduce this. 2 goes into 8. Well, okay, 2 goes into 8 4 times, but let's just say I didn't know that. So I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to work it the long way. How many times does 2 go into 8? And if I don't know my multiplication, if I don't know this division, I look for my multiplication chart. It's going to get me through the toughest of times. 2 times 4 is 8. Now I'm getting a little nervous because it's still an even number. I don't know what I'm going to get for this one, but I'm going to do the same here. How many times does 2 go? Oops. So quick to want to write the answer. How many times does 2 go into 10? Look at my multiplication chart, 5 times. So that essentially is your answer for there are 8 girls for every 10 boys. Write that ratio in a fraction in the lowest forms. It would be 4/5. Okay, so what I'm going to ask is, I'm going to read this next question. There are 4 cats for every 14 dogs. There are 4 cats for every 14 dogs. Write that ratio in a fraction form in simplest terms. And I would love for you to press pause and do it on your own. As usual, pause. Okay, so I hope you did take the pause. I hope you were able to work it out on your own. So let's see what I got. So they said there are 4 cats. I'm not going to rewrite the whole problem here. So I got 4 cats. There's 4 to 14. So I got 4 to 14. I know what I'm working with, but I asked it to be in fraction form. So I'm going to write 4 over 14. Pretty darn simple, but it needs to be reduced. So remember, for test and for everything, and just for practice, you want to get that into the simplest form. I'm thinking about my multiplication chart, and I'm just going over my 4s because I'm thinking that's the highest number here that I can start with. So does 4 go into 14? 4? No, it's not going to work. So the next lower even number, I'm just using my deduction-y, is going to be 2. So how many times does 2 go into 4? 2 times what is 4? 2 times. How many times does 2 go into 14? Again, got to practice this multiplication. It's going to come back to haunt you on pretty much for a long, long time in your math journey. So got to be strong on that. So 2 into 14. If I don't know, check my multiplication chart. 7 times 2. There's my answer. Okay. My answer is 2 over 7. And that's ratios in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I will be doing more and more root problems on ratios, for look for that. Hope you enjoyed this lesson and like my page. Bye for now.